Well, hello 1L, and we're going to be solving problems with proportions. So our goal today, I can successfully calculate the unknown in a proportional relationship. So we're solving problems with proportions part 1, where this time we're just going to, learn what a proportion is actually. So a proportion is two fractions that are equal to each other. Okay, so here's one, and you can see how they're equal to each other. We multiply the top and bottom by the same thing. Now we had to do that when we were getting common denominators too, that we just turned one fraction into another one that was the same, just looked a little bit different, had a different denominator. And we've played with our fraction chips and things like that. So you know that we just have to multiply top and bottom by the same thing to get another fraction that is equal to the first fraction. Okay, so we're going to use this information to actually figure out what's missing in a proportional relationship. So take a look at our first example here. Whoop, we're going to stop. Whoop, no, that's too far. There we go. Okay, this says, what is missing? Well, this x is what is missing. We have to figure out what value, what number that x is standing in place for. We put that x there because we don't know what that number is. So now we're going to try and figure out how to find what number that x represents. So I'm going to pull this out. This says step 1. And step 1 says, draw an arrow from the little number to the big number and figure out what the multiplier is. Okay, when I say draw a number or draw an arrow from the little number to the big number, I mean the ones that are side by side. Okay, we go like this. We go from the little number to the big number and then decide what the multiplier is. Well, to get from 4 to 20, if you don't happen to know, if you don't know what the multiplier is, you can just do 20 divided by 4. Take the big number and divide it by the little number, and that will tell you what the multiplier is. So in this case, the multiplier is 5. We have to multiply 4 by 5 to get to 20. Okay, so that's the end of step 1. We figured out our multiplier. And remember, if you don't know it, you can just divide the big number by the little number to find it. And it won't always be a nice number either. So here's step 2. Draw an arrow from the number to the unknown. So we're looking at the other one. I'm going to use a different color. So we're looking at here, we got to go from the number to the unknown value. So we're going to turn the 9 into the x. It says if the arrow is the same way as on step 1, multiply by the number you found. If it goes the opposite way, divide by it. So we got to take a look at it. This arrow went to the left. This arrow's going to the right. So they're in opposite directions. So they must have opposite operations. So we have to figure out what our x is, we have to divide by 5 to figure out what our x is. So that means that our x is 9 divided by 5. So underneath I'm just going to write that. X has to be 9 divided by 5. Now 9 divided by 5 is not a nice number. It's almost 2. 9 divided by 5 is 1.8. Okay, so our answer is 1.8. So it's not a particularly nice number, but that's what it would be. 9 over 20 is the same as 1.8 over 4. Okay, we're going to take a look at a few more. And we're going to follow those 2 steps. We got to figure out what the multiplier is and then either multiply or divide to get it. So let's do it. Here is our 2 numbers side by side. We're going to take the little number and turn it into the big number. So how do I take the little number and turn it into the big number? Well, if you know your times tables, you know that 7 times 5 is 35. So we have to multiply by 5. If you didn't know that, I'm just going to put in bubbles here, a little speech or thought bubble. You can think, what is 35 divided by 7? And that answer is 5. So if you do not know what this multiplier is by your times tables, you can take the big number and divide it by the little number. Now, in the next on the bottom, we have to go from the number to the unknown. And if the arrows go the same way, and this way they do, they both point to the left. So since they both point to the left, that means they're both the same operation. So we have to times by 5. So what that means is that A is 2 times 5, or 10. Okay, going over to this one, we have to take the two numbers that are side by side, draw an arrow from the little number to the big number, and figure out what our multiplier is. And in this case, our multiplier, what do I have to multiply 20 by to get to 40? That's times 2. And if you didn't happen to know that, you could take the big number and divide it by the little number on your calculator, 40 divided by 20, and you would get the multiplier. Okay. So then on the next line, we have to go from the number to the unknown. So we're going to figure out our A this time. We go from 24 to A. And look, our arrows are going opposite directions. So I have to do the opposite operation. So I do 24 divided by 2. So that means our A is 24 divided by 2, which is just 12. And the last one before I show you a different way to do it, over here we're going to find our two numbers that are side by side and draw an arrow from the little number to the big number. And what do I have to multiply 8 by to get to 24? Well, if you don't know, you do 24 divided by 8. Hopefully you do know that it's just times 3. And then up here we have to go from the number to the unknown. And this time our arrows are going the same direction, so we multiply by the multiplier. So our B is 10 times 3, which is 30. Okay, so we found the unknowns for all of these things. Now I'm going to show you slightly different with a method called cross multiplying. Now here's the idea of cross multiplying. If I have two fractions that are the same, and we know these are the same, this is what I had before. If I multiply the top by 4 and the bottom by 4, we've got these two equal fractions. But I want to show you something different. If I multiply this way, so that I get 4 times 12, so I'm multiplying across the equal sign like that, 4 times 12 is 48. Now, if I do the other way and do a multiplying that way, I do 3 times 16 and I get 48. Now that is actually always true, that if I multiply crossways, I get the same thing. So what that allows us to do is do what we call cross multiplying and dividing. So if I cross one way and then divide by the leftover number, I should get this number. So let me show you what I mean with this one. If I cross 3 times 16, so I use this blue cross, and then I divide by 4, I should get my leftover number. I should get 12. Let me pull up my calculator and I'll show you. 3 times 16 divided by 12 is 4. So we got it. Oh, whoop. I said I was going to divide by 4, didn't I? 3 times 16 divided by 4 is 12, which is the leftover number that we said we were going to get. But notice it worked either way. I could either divide by 4 or divide by 12, and it still gives me the last number, the one that I didn't divide by. So that lets us do this down here. It says that to figure out what A is, I multiply across these two numbers and divide by this one. So that means A equals 35 times 2 divided by 7. Let's plug that into the calculator. 35 times 2 divided by 7 is 10. Now this is the same question we did a minute ago, so we're going to double check that back with our last things and see if we got the same answer. So that was the first question that we worked on over here. And look, we did. We got the same answer. So we can trust it. Okay. Now over here again, we're going to multiply those and then divide by the leftover. So our A is going to equal 24 times 20 divided by 40. Now remember, our answer that we got before was 2, so hopefully we're going to get 2 here. So 24 times 20 divided by 40 equals 12. Was the answer 2? Let's go back over here. Nope, the answer was 12. We got the right answer this time too, 12. Now, going over this way, Again, to find out our b, we cross the two numbers and divide by what's left over. So b is going to equal 10 times 24 divided by 8. And you can just type that into your calculator. 10 times 24 divided by 8. And we get 30. And that's all there is to it. And now you have a worksheet.